साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Wonder of Wonders, the English rendering of Paramahamsa Sadguru SriSatupasi Kannada Classic Mahadascharya. Chapter 19. Om Shri Gurudattaya Namaha.
Accused of theft.
Heart melts. In our village, that is Upparati, we had one grass ropa, a haystack of our own. It was so big, it would last a whole year. We had to gaze our cows, bullocks and buffaloes prudently so that it would last the whole year. Sometimes this stack would not last until the next crop was harvested. We had to use it in small, measured ways. Further, for some, nay, for most, they had to confront the same situation. Therefore, there were thefts during nights. For this reason, one had to keep watch over one's stack. I used to sleep every day in the ropa itself. My father, however, was always skeptical of my vigilance. He feared this fellow himself will give away, and so he kept a watch over me alone. Of course, that was how I conducted myself too. If someone distressed came to me and said, "No fodder for cattle and calves," I would say, "Come in the night, I will give." And so I did too. Every day my father would come to our ropa and make a mark on it after evening withdrawals were made. The Ugadi festival, the Kannada New Year, arrived. The preceding day is the new moon day, Amavasya. It's a custom for all brothers to come together that day and set aside something of their own as Kadri Mudpu. That day I took bath, and that was the only day in the year when I bathed. On that day we were to eat only once. Our family god is Kadri Narasimha Swami. That god is one who is very particular about our conduct on such matters. We cannot eat all and sundry. If it was very necessary to eat at all, a little of hasi tambittu, that's a compound of rice flour and jaggery, can be taken, and only one ball is permitted. Must take bath in the evening and wear new clothes. If I wore a new dress in this manner, I changed into a new one only in the next Ugadi. Snana, head bath, is as it is described. I took twice or thrice a year. Several times I fasted on other days. That day, that is Ugadi Amavasya day, I used to take my meal in someone else's house without my father knowing it, because that day hunger pangs were such I would never get such ones any other day. My hunger didn't satiate no matter how much I ate. I would go and eat in 2 or 3 houses under one pretext or other. Not knowing all this, my mother would urge, "Come, take some milk or tambittu." Before my father, I walked around pulling my face long and pale. My mother would beg, "Come dear, take this tamata." Going out of the house, I would shout within my father's hearing, "No, Amma, today I won't eat anything. Fasting means fasting indeed. Nothing I would eat, I am very certain." My mother would say, thinking that I am really fasting, "Don't take these injunctions so seriously, my son. Take a plantain and drink some milk. One meal means you shouldn't eat a meal. Snacks and others aren't covered." Oh, how difficult it is to convince you. Listening to our conversation, my father would tell his wife, "Hey, keep quiet. If your son fasts for a day, he will not die." While I was thus wandering in and out of houses, my father entrusted me with several duties. They were making a festoon of mango leaves, suspending them across gateways, adorn it with neem leaves, plucking flowers and such others. Further, mud painting of burial tombs of dead long ago and finally painting them with lime after they were splashed with dung water. Filled with red mud, crevices and cracks of mud walls, splash them with dung water before it is painted white with lime. By the time you finished with painting of the old burial tombs and houses, you would curse Ugadi for its arrival, coming saying, "Why does this Ugadi come after all?" When all this was over, we turned our attention to adoring Kanneshwara, a goddess. We had to wash and polish her silver face, her silver umbrella ready for use. We had to keep 2 chembus, mini pots, one for our Ajja and another for Ajji, as representations of our ancestors. One was dhoti clad and the other was draped in a sari to be adorned by arcanut bud and flowers. The Kanneshwara's idol was rested on a raised platform. The other photos of gods and goddesses were cleaned, washed, and rehung on their former nails. After all this was over, Appaya used to announce, "Aren't you ready yet? Take an overhead bath, worship, invite our brothers and cousins, go and fetch that dasaya with your waist tied up properly." By now, everyone would have bathed. After everyone's bath, water left for me was hardly 2 or 3 mini pots. When I poured it down on my head, I didn't know where it went. What else was there for me to do except swipe those parts of my body over which no water had trickled? I got off old knickers and the so-called shirt. Dressing myself up with the newly brought garments brought by my father Sri Guru Siddhappa, I was moving about as though I was in the very heavens or a few inches away from it. When it is around 7 or 8 in the night, the Dasaya proceeded from one house to another, blowing his conch, calling out in reverence, "Govinda, Govinda," with the Garuda Gamba, a light stand in his hand. That day, I brought him home respectfully, not before sprinkling water on Dasaya's path, ahead of his coming. The Arati procession would start from our home with Govinda Nama Smarane, chanting Govinda and singing auspicious Sobana songs, and end at Maramma Gudi. Before the Maramma temple, a black kambli rug was spread out on the Gadduge, that is Jangama Samadhi, a platform, and the Kadri Mudupu of each family was respectfully offered to Dasaya. All brothers wore the Govinda Nama mark on their foreheads. At two, some coconut broken by each one of the families was filled into Dasaya's Bhavanashi, a wide-mouthed vessel. A long kambli was spread out and plantains and broken coconut pieces were kept on it. Dasaya was given a lighted panje and he would walk on it saying Govinda and playing with that panje flame, like inserting it into his mouth and masticating it. The ceremony ended after eating manevu, singing Sobana and chanting Govinda. Panje is a torch of flame made up of several layers of oil-soaked cloth. My Appaya, holding Bhavanashi in his hand, walking ahead of Dasaya, brought him home, where he would be made to stand on a plate-like vessel. My mother washed his feet with water. Everyone sprinkled on their own faces the holy washed water. We trooped into our homes and sat in a line called Pankti. When Dasoha was finished in one's house, he moved to the next one in the same ceremonial way. The meaning of Dasoha may range from offering of food to Dasaya to all that is done in holy servitude in an attitude of liberating enslavement. This Dasa Pankti was done in all houses. Although I had gone after my meal to the ropa to keep a watch over it, I wanted to sleep unfettered and feed bullocks the next morning. There was no sign of the mark that my father had made. The split Barbados aloe and other twines and twigs which I had brought were also not there. I thought someone has trespassed into the ropa that night, when we went home for Kadri Mudpu and took away a large bundle of hay by tying it with twines I had left behind. What to do? If Appaya comes to know of this, I will have to get thrashed on the Ugadi festival, I thought. I rearranged the stack and returned. I kept quiet without telling this to Appaya. Uppara Dasaya house was next to ours. He ran a shop. That strange fellow was splashing dung water to the hende wall of his house. Climbing up the ladder, he was standing on his rooftop. Instead of holding myself quiet, I said, "What? Are you whitewashing on a festival day?" "What to do, solitary I am," he said. After a while, he asked, "Mister, do you care to bring me up here? Through the ladder dung water bucket down below?" Saying yes, I carried up the ladder dung water bucket and said, "Take." Right there on that rooftop, I saw a bundle of jovar, sappe, ragi kaddi, sajje kaddi, which I had tied the previous day in our haystack. "What is this, uncle, this bundle of hay? Where was it? How come it is here?" I asked. "Why?" he asked. "This is ours. How come it is here?" I asked. "How?" "I don't know. Yesterday night, Vadra Palleppa brought and gave," he said. I began thinking, yes, this should not be left untraced. I must tell this to Appaya. He suspects me every day. I came to my father and reported, "Look, father, when we went home to do Kadri Mudpu, Pallappa has carried the bundle of hay and has given it to Uncle Dasappa. That bundle is on his rooftop." "Is that so? But tell me first, did Pallappa carry it away or did you yourself give it?" questioned Appa. "No, I haven't really. If you care, you can check up with Dasappa uncle," I said. "Then go and fetch him," he said. "Shiva, Shiva, I will be happy if my father's disbelief on me is gone. That's enough." I said to myself and went to Pallappa and said, "Pallappa, Appa wants to talk to you. He calls you," I said. "What for?" "I can't and won't come." "Does anyone miss making karigadbu, a sweet dish, and go elsewhere?" "No," he said. "Come on, find some time and come," I said. Grumbling on to himself, he started. I should have kept quiet. I myself began. "It seems you gave away the hay bundle that was in the roppa." As soon as he heard this, Pallappa broke out into shouting. "Which son of a whore said that? I will tear him into shreds. Bring that fellow to me. Who is that Dasappa? His stars are on the wane. Let him say before me. With one stroke, I will cut him into two. I will make him understand that he isn't born at all." He went on rattling. It was difficult to contain him. While I stood arrested at the turn of events, my father interrupted. "Yes, mister, look at this fellow. My own son, having spent something on himself, he's shifting the blame on someone. I have already declared. This is his way of life." Saying this, he looked in my direction. "No, Dad. Ask Dasappa uncle. He said that Pallappa himself gave it to him," I said. "Let him come and testify if Dasappa has guts," said Mallappa. Dasappa on the attic is shivering and trembling in his limbs, listening to Pallappa's roar. I felt, what did I do? I shouldn't have raised this issue at all. What a miscalculation. "Pallappa, tell it all. We don't do anything to you. Confess that I have given. Nothing is going to happen. But why utter a lie?" With folded hands, "I beseech you," I said. "Ah, you are back at it again. Who do you think I am? Not only today, any day for that matter, if anyone says what kind of a person is Pallappa, I will pluck their eyes," he said. My father alone tried to pacify and reconcile him. "Ayyo, let it go, Pallappa. On a festival day like this, my son alone, this son of a thief, having himself done it, he shifted the blame on you." "Ayyo, Pallappa, speak the truth. I am no good fellow. If I am enraged, I won't let you off. How dare you shift your theft on me? Just accept your guilt," I said. What do you do? If Dasappa is a true son of his father's son, let him say it again, he said. Dasappa is frightened. Haven't you tell me really? Haven't you carried it, Meister? I interrogated again. Why harp it again? He asked. I was standing on a raised ground under a canopy before our house. Down below, Pallappa was standing. My Appaya, my Doddappa, father's brother, Somaguddi Irajja, and many others were there. Pallappa, who was standing a little down under, was gazing at me as though he would devour me. Thinking that he wouldn't concede if dealt with as is done, I asked, Don't you accept? Is something wrong with your fate? Stellar configuration? He mocked. Don't know where this anger was which possessed Mallaya. That instant, I gave a slap, only one, on his cheek, taking my hand as far back as I could. He was struck like a bolt from the blue. He cried, Appa, rotating helplessly, fell on the ground. Wriggling in discomfort and confusion, blood oozed out from his mouth and nose. My Appaya stood stunned, unable to understand my ferocious stance or the power of my slap. Everyone stood arrested for a second. Someone came and sprinkled some cold water on Pallappa's face, wiped it and made him drink some water. He sat up, opening his eyes. Bark out! Do you or not? Who delivered the hay? I demanded. Doddappa, when you went in the night for Kadri Mudpu, I carried it and gave it to Dasappa, he said. My father stood silent. Didn't you listen, Appaya? I asked. It's all right. What is there? I know, of course, you are a big man, said my father. Pallappa stood up, stared pointedly at the wall washing Dasappa, and went home. Everyone went to their respective homes. Every house in the village was happily busy with cooking traditional dishes like karigadbu, sandige, vade, mensinkai, etc. My father called me and said, Go and do yede, that is, offer food to ancestors, for all our ancestral tombs. Dining was permitted only after this worship. I said yes. My mother would deposit in a big vessel all that our ancestors were used to liking and eating, such as fruits, coconuts, apla, sandige, betel leaves, and nut, tobacco dust, beedis. Accordingly, I took that vessel and placed it before the ancestral tombs, samadhis, and sat down. The ede is to be finished or to be left behind. It is not to be brought back. To fulfill the customary requirement, I tried to take a morsel instantly. I remembered Vaddara Palleppa. Shiva Shiva, what did I do? If I had kept quiet, nothing would have followed. On an auspicious holy day, I begged him. What pain and anguish he must have suffered. I don't know whether he has eaten or not. The karigadbu which I had taken to my mouth, I kept it back. I returned home. Possessed by such thoughts, on the way, I wondered whether he would accept my call and come with me or not. I must send my Ammaya and manage to bring him back. I must make him eat. Come what may, doesn't mind falling at his feet and bring him back. If I can't do this much, what is the point in my being alive and living? With such thoughts ruling my mind, I returned home. Amma called me. Come on, eat, she invited. No, Ma, I said, and slowly inched towards her. I don't know whether or not Pallappa has eaten. Amma, do you care to go and bring him? I said. Are you sane or not? Do you know what a beating you gave him? He must have been outraged. If you go and ask him to come, does he? Said Amma. No matter what, Ma, you yourself should go, and pursued him to come and tell him. Pallappa, please don't mind what has happened. He has beaten without knowing what he is doing. He is now crying with remorse. He hasn't eaten. He has sent me to accept his call. Aren't you one like my own son? Come. No, nothing doing. He isn't the right type. He will not understand or come. Just come and eat. You haven't erred. Theft he had committed and got his rewards. You haven't raised your hands without reason. Why did he carry the hay bundle then? My mother reasoned. No, Ma, I won't eat. Let him do what he likes. I will myself go and bring him. You have no objection to feeding him, have you? I asked. What a fool are you, I say. You think he accepts your call? In his anger, he may kick you out as well. Why are you bothered about him, I say, Mother explained. No, Ma, I will myself go and call him. If he resorts to hitting me back, let him, I said and went to Palleppa's residence. The door was half open. Slowly I stepped in. In a corner covering himself with a rug, he was lying. Slowly I said, Palleppa, Palleppa. He didn't respond. Going near him, I slowly lifted his rug.
He stared
At me and opened his mouth, his teeth clattering. Why did you trespass into my residence? He said in anger and stood up. I wanted to take you home for eating. Please come, I say. You can come back after meals, I said. Will you get out with honor or do you want something? He said, getting up, searching for a stick or something to attack. Palleppa, if you feel like beating me in the heat of your anger, to your exhaustion, no worry, please do. I will close the door also. His fury was inexpressible. He stood his ground unyielding.
I fell at his feet
And held on to it. I won't take my hands off until you say I'm coming, I said. His mind, heart must have softened and the milk of kindness must have swelled at my distress and its truth. Come on, let's go. What a sage are you. Incomprehensible, he said. Tears were trickling from his eyes. I brought him home with an unknown joy and said, Amma, I have brought Palleppa. You wouldn't believe. Place the eating plates, Mother. My mother placed the plates before us. Sitting right before him, I was seeing his eating. Without my own knowing, a torrent of tears flowed out from my eyes. That joy was ineffable. I am taking leave, Sanamaya, said Palleppa to my mother, who had given him betel leaves and nuts after the meal. Come, eat, said my mother. Place it, I said. Every morsel was nectar. I felt like jumping. Joy experienced was no object for the writer's pen. That Palleppa is very much with us even now. He is transformed. He is now a man of truth, Sajjana and Satvika, a man of light and equipoise. His wisdom guides and his life shines. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat.